Thank you, Chairman. And I want to keep things sort of brief because I've got a long list of questions I'd love to get to. But for any of you, what can we do to bring down the cost of electrolysis faster and further, or further and faster, I should say? Go ahead, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Senator. And we've already launched the H2New consortium with our national labs. Today, we're at about $1,000 to $1,500 a kilowatt. We need to be about 10 times less. And so we've already mobilized our resources. And with hydrogen shot, we really have a good shot at getting there within a decade.
Do you have any opinions on the future of the direction of electrolysis, proton exchange membranes versus alkaline water electrolysis?
Yes, and we believe that we need the portfolio, so some of the conventional alkaline will be able to be deployed right away. We still need to reduce cost with PEM, and then we have even more advanced electrolysis like high temperature, so we have the entire portfolio.
Super. Mr. Lewis, Bloomberg New Energy Finance projects that hydrogen from electrolysis is going to be cheaper than hydrogen with carbon capture and sequestration by around 2030. If that's even remotely accurate, talk to me about whether hydrogen with carbon capture and sequestration projects risk being stranded assets.
We need a lot of clean hydrogen quickly. We need it to be cost competitive. And making that hydrogen from any one particular energy source is going to be very difficult. So we think we need to deploy all of the clean energy resources we can to produce hydrogen that has sufficiently low carbon intensity. Our expectation is that hydrogen made from natural gas with carbon capture sequestration is significantly cheaper than green electrolytic processes right now. We're going to see improvements, we think, on both of those, very steep improvements on the electrolytic side. But we think that in order to really take advantage of the benefits that hydrogen can provide to the decarbonization effort, we need as much of it as we can as possible, and we're going to need both.
What I'm getting at is if you do a big, not a distributed project, and electrolysis is small and distributed and iterative, whereas if you do a big, expensive project that requires carbon capture and sequestration, you really need 20, 30 years to make that money back. So, Mr. Levinka, do you have thoughts about that, how we avoid, in the interest of doing things in steps, how do we avoid making long-term investments that end up being non-cost effective in just a few years?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Senator. We believe that the ability to quickly scale the production of hydrogen does lean towards SMRs with CCUS. And so this is really where we also think the ability to locate those next to existing sequestration sites and next to existing infrastructure is incredibly important to alleviate some of those costs that would be required for new build out of infrastructure. And so the report you referenced around the development of green hydrogen and electrolysis and bringing that cost down over the next 10 years, we think that's very aggressive. And we think that there's near-term opportunity to produce large amounts of clean hydrogen without the use of electrolysis.
Dr. Satayapal, given the issues we struggle with, including in my state in great degree, with fugitive methane in the natural gas supply chain, how do we measure the carbon intensity of technologies like steam methane reform with CCS to accurately reflect the entire carbon intensity? So not just the reductions that we've heard about today, but you have to account for upstream emissions as well.
Thank you, Senator. And we're definitely cognizant of the upstream emissions issue and committed to reducing that. Right now, we have a significant analysis underway, and we look forward to working on the clean hydrogen standard, which is in the bipartisan infrastructure law. But upstream emissions is obviously a significant issue. Our focus is clean hydrogen.
So one of the things we haven't talked about today is that the debate about where best to deploy hydrogen, and to some degree the market will decide that, but I'm curious your thoughts on, 10 years from now, are we going to see hydrogen primarily as a solution to the decarbonization of these hard sectors, heavy shipping, heavy trucking, industrial, as a storage medium for electric generation, or both? Any of you? Mr. Gaff.
Senator, I think there's a couple key points to be made. First of all, I would say in terms of the sectors, I believe in 10 years you will see the benefits of hydrogen, first of all, in transportation. There's already an element for light-duty vehicles, but I think the real benefit it's going to be for commercial vehicles, heavy-duty vehicles, return-to-base type operations, warehouse-type facilities, as well as kind of the Class 8 tractor-trailer that's on the road. The utilization of hydrogen fuel cells and utilizing storage of hydrogen on board takes minimal space and much less weight than a full battery array to accomplish the same goal. So you preserve the payload, you preserve the ability to manage that, and recognize that the usability of hydrogen is very similar to what you have today. For a passenger vehicle, you pull into your refueling station, and 5 minutes later, you're on your way to drive another 300, 400, 500 miles, whatever the case may be for your vehicle. There's not a long-term charging aspect to that. And you have something even
Yeah,
better.
I'll give you that, but the reality is we don't have that infrastructure anywhere today, and all of us have a plug at our home. So it's not really inconvenient for me to plug in my electric vehicle.
I think
It's a
if we
different situation with tractor trailers, obviously.
Fair. I believe, though, if you think about commercial vehicles and we think about the heavy duty and return to base operations, and you begin to go ahead and set up significant infrastructure to meet those needs, then I believe it is a real solution.
Great.
I think also for industry, you will see it in chemicals and you will see it in steel over that time. And for the grid, definitely for backup for solar and for wind. We have already built the world's largest hydrogen storage facility in Beaumont, Texas. And it contains enough hydrogen energy to go ahead and back up a new full-scale nuclear power plant for 1 to 2 weeks if you build out the infrastructure. So I think there's a lot of capability.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Graff. And I apologize, Chairman, for running over for a couple minutes here. I
Extremely
appreciate
important, very
tolerance.
important. Thank you.